Have you ever wondered what made the year 1215 so chaotic that it changed the course of history? Welcome to possibly the most turbulent year in history, 1215. This was the year that marked a major turning point in both English and world history, and its significance can still be felt today. In 1215, the central conflict revolved around the power struggle between King John and his barons. King John, also known as John Lackland, had been on the throne since 1199, and his rule had been marked by a series of conflicts with the nobility. The barons were disgruntled with the king's arbitrary and oppressive rule, and they were determined to limit his power. This struggle for power would be the catalyst for the chaotic events that unfolded throughout the year. The English monarchy was facing a crisis of confidence, with King John's reputation in tatters. He had lost the Duchy of Normandy to the French, and his military campaigns had been disastrous. The barons saw an opportunity to take advantage of the king's weakness and push for reforms. They were particularly upset about the king's abuse of feudal rights, which allowed him to raise taxes and demand military service from the nobility without their consent. The king's actions had also sparked a crisis in the church, with the Archbishop of Canterbury, Stephen Langton, excommunicating King John in 1208. This had led to a rift between the king and the Pope, which further weakened the monarchy's authority. The stage was set for a major confrontation between the king and his barons, with the very future of the English monarchy hanging in the balance. In January 1215, a group of rebel barons demanded that King John confirm the Charter of Liberties, a document that would limit his power and guarantee their rights. The king, realizing that he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered, reluctantly agreed to their demands. However, he had no intention of keeping his word, and the subsequent months were marked by a series of skirmishes and sieges as the king attempted to crush the rebellion. One of the key events of 1215 was the siege of Rochester Castle, a strategic stronghold in Kent that was held by the rebel barons. The siege lasted for over 2 months, with the king's forces employing brutal tactics to try and dislodge the defenders. The castle finally fell in November, but not before the king had suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of the rebels. The baronial revolt was gaining momentum, with more and more nobles defecting to the rebel cause. The king was desperate to regain control, but his efforts were in vain. In June 1215, the rebel barons marched on London, occupying the city and forcing the king to negotiate. The outcome of these negotiations was the signing of the Magna Carta, a document that would become one of the most influential in the history of democracy. The Magna Carta was signed on June 15, 1215, at Runnymede, a meadow near Windsor Castle. The document contained 63 clauses, many of which were designed to limit the king's power and protect the rights of the nobility. It established the principle that the king was not above the law, and that even he was subject to the rule of law. The Magna Carta was a groundbreaking document that would shape the course of governance for centuries to come. The Magna Carta's impact was immediate, with the rebel barons agreeing to stand down and accept the king's authority once more. However, the document's true significance lay in its long-term effects. It established the principle of constitutional monarchy, where the power of the monarch was limited by law and custom. It also protected the rights of the nobility, and later, the common people, from arbitrary abuse of power. In conclusion, 1215 was a year of chaos and upheaval, marked by a series of tumultuous events that would shape the course of history. From the power struggle between King John and his barons, to the siege of Rochester Castle and the signing of the Magna Carta, this was a year that would have far-reaching consequences for governance, rights, and liberties. So, what do you think about the events of 1215? Do you think the Magna Carta was a turning point in history? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about the Magna Carta and its significance, Be sure to check out our video on the topic, where we dive deeper into its history and impact.